Before you refuel again, stop, because the danger starts before you even touch the pump. Tiny everyday habits, things 90% of drivers do without thinking, are quietly damaging your fuel system, confusing sensors, and raising the risk of a fire you'll never see coming. And the final mistake could save you thousands or prevent a disaster at the pump. The first mistake? It hides in a move you make without thinking. Mistake number 15, getting back in the car while the nozzle is still pumping. You latch the pump, walk back to your car to sit in the warmth, check your phone, then step out a minute later and grab that metal nozzle while fuel is still flowing, or just stopped. Mechanically, nothing changed in your fuel system during those seconds. Electrically, everything did. Modern dispensers are bonded and grounded. The nozzle, the hose, the pump, all tied together to bleed off static. So any charge from fuel flowing through hoses doesn't spark at the nozzle. When you first start pumping and keep your hand on that nozzle, your body is bonded to the grounded system. When you let go, slide across synthetic seat fabric, then return, you become a separate, ungrounded capacitor, building several thousand volts of static. The filler neck area is exactly where flammable vapor hangs. Gasoline vapor has a wide flammable range in air. Around that open filler, there's often a mix that can ignite from a tiny spark. Fire codes warn against re-entering your vehicle while refueling. When these fires happen, they escalate fast. Vapors at the filler ignite. Flames shoot up the side of the car. Drivers instinctively yank the nozzle out, which sprays burning fuel over the quarter panel and ground. If you must re-enter the car, touch a metal part of the vehicle away from the filler before grabbing that nozzle. Static at the pump is one danger. The next mistake moves that risk inside your vehicle. Mistake number 14, filling a gas can while it's sitting in the trunk or truck bed. You buy fuel for a lawnmower or generator. Set the plastic gas can in the trunk or pickup bed. Fill it right there. Feels stable, convenient, safer because the can won't tip over. From a static and vapor perspective, this is one of the riskiest things people do at a pump. Most consumer gas cans are made from high-density polyethylene, a good insulator. When fuel splashes and flows into that can, it creates charge separation on the interior surface and the fuel itself. If the can sits on bare concrete or asphalt, microscopic conduction paths and moisture let that charge bleed to ground. When the can sits on carpet in a trunk, on a rubber cargo mat, on a plastic bed liner in a pickup, it's insulated from ground. Once voltage difference is high enough, the spark jumps where the gap is smallest, often right at the lip of the can, where the vapor-air mix ignites easiest. Accident investigations of pickup bed gas can fires, they found the same pattern every time. Plastic can, plastic bed liner, cold dry weather, ignition near the container opening. Remove the container from your vehicle. Place it on the ground. Keep the nozzle touching the container opening throughout the fill. Fire risk at the pump transitions into something quieter. The next mistake happens after the pump clicks, and it floods a system designed to breathe vapor. Mistake number 13, topping off the tank. After the pump clicks off at full. You keep squeezing, maybe to hit a round number on the display, maybe to pack in more range. On modern sealed systems with EVAP and onboard refueling vapor recovery, topping off directly fights how the system was engineered. The charcoal canister is designed to hold vapor, not liquid fuel. When the tank fills to proper level, there's headspace above the liquid for vapor and expansion. When you force extra fuel in after the first click, that additional liquid backs up into the filler neck, covers the vent inlet, gets pushed into vent lines leading toward the canister. Once that charcoal soaks, it stops behaving like a filter, starts behaving like a wet sponge. Vapor flow gets restricted. The tank may not breathe properly anymore. The symptoms? Extremely slow refueling where the pump keeps clicking off. Fuel burping back out of the filler. Strong fuel odors. A check engine light for evap system faults. Diagnosing and replacing a saturated charcoal canister, vent valve, and potentially damaged lines. $300 to $900 at a shop. Easy. Stop squeezing after the first click. Before we move on, make sure you subscribe. This channel exists to keep your engine healthier, your repairs cheaper, and your driving life way less stressful. Mistake number 12, refueling. Right after the tanker truck fills the station. You pull in while the tanker truck unloads fuel into underground tanks, or moments after it leaves. Delivery flow rates churn the tank contents, lift sediment, rust, pockets of water into suspension. Suction pipes sit above the bottom layer, yet a stirred tank turns the entire volume into a temporary mix of fine debris. From your car's side of the equation, that debris reaches the fuel filter far sooner than expected. The pump works harder against rising restriction. Any particles that slip past the filter, they move toward injector screens and nozzle openings. Spray patterns shift. Misfires grow more likely. Idle quality suffers long after the fill-up. If the tanker is present or the covers are freshly wet, wait 15 to 30 minutes, or return later. Clean fuel begins with calm tanks, not turbulent ones. Mistake number 11, running on empty before refueling. You push it one more day, driving with the gauge below E. Warning light on, fuel pump sucking fumes. On most modern cars, the fuel pump is an electric unit mounted inside the tank, designed to sit in a bath of fuel, which does 3 jobs at once: cools the pump motor, lubricates internal components, provides constant positive head of liquid at the pump inlet. When fuel level is very low, more of the pump body and pickup are exposed. The pump runs in hot vapor, and the last puddle at the bottom. Constantly driving with a very low tank overheats the pump, shortens its life. At very low levels, the pump also has greater chance of pulling air and vapor into the line. That leads to brief fuel starvation events, where the pump delivers bubbles. You experience this as hesitation, rough running, even stalling. Tanks accumulate fine debris over years, rust flakes, dust, rubber crumbs from hoses. When fuel level is very low, the pump draws from the same region where that sediment concentrates. Refuel at a quarter tank keeps the pump cool, skips the mud at the bottom of the pool. Running on fumes starves the pump of cooling. The next habit leaves your engine running through a cloud of vapors. Mistake number 10, leaving the engine running while refueling. You pull up to the pump, leave the engine idling so the cabin stays cool or warm. Refuel with all ignition and electrical systems live. An idling engine means ignition coils constantly firing, alternator producing current, electric radiator fans cycling on and off, relays and contactors occasionally arcing, an exhaust system hot, sometimes close to vapor paths. Gasoline vapor is heavier than air, can pool around the filler neck, under the car. In normal conditions, vapor concentrations stay below ignition limits. But safety codes are written for the one time everything lines up badly. A small spill, a gust of wind that channels vapors, a fan or relay that arcs at exactly the wrong moment. With the engine running, the EVAP system is live. The purge valve may be cycling, pulling fuel vapor from the charcoal canister into the intake. The ECU expects tank level changes only by driving and burning fuel. Some modern cars detect refueling events with the engine on. Others simply see an unexpected jump in fuel level and tank pressure, which confuses learned fuel trim logic. Turn the key off. The cabin may warm up for a moment, but your odds in a worst-case scenario cool down significantly. An idling engine confuses sensors. The next mistake introduces aged fuel that reshapes combustion itself. Mistake number 9, dumping very old gas from a can into the tank before filling. You find a plastic or metal jerry can with fuel sitting for months in a garage. Instead of disposing of it properly, you pour the entire can into your car just before a normal fill-up. Fresh gasoline is a carefully blended mix. Light, volatile components and heavier fractions, combined with detergents, often ethanol. Over time, especially in vented plastic cans or containers exposed to heat and air, oxidation produces gums and varnish-like deposits. The most volatile components evaporate first. Octane rating drops. Ethanol-containing fuels pull water from the air. Stale fuel can suffer a 3 to 4 point drop in octane. Shows clear signs of gum and varnish formation. When you dump that entire can into the car, especially if you tilt it and pour the very last drop. You send the worst part of the fuel straight into the tank. Modern engines are finely tuned to a minimum octane. Put in a batch of significantly derated gasoline, the knock sensor detects knock. The ECU pulls ignition timing back. You just feel the car is sluggish. Those oxidation products coat injector tips. Intake valves. Fuel pressure regulators. Old gasoline should be treated as hazardous waste, taken to municipal hazardous waste centers. Old gasoline is one threat. The next mistake is choosing pumps where fuel ages before it ever reaches you. Mistake number 8. Always choosing the dead, cheap pump with no turnover. You hunt down the quiet, off-brand, rock-bottom price station, or the outermost lonely pump that never seems to have a queue. Underground storage tanks at stations accumulate water, sediment, sometimes microbial growth at the bottom over time. High-volume stations constantly cycle fuel. Tanker deliveries come in. Fuel goes out quickly. Any contaminants are more likely caught early or diluted. Low-volume stations and dead pumps? They might hold the same batch of fuel for much longer. During that time, dissolved water may settle, form a distinct layer at the bottom. Microbes can grow at the fuel-water interface, producing sludge. Oxidation slowly degrades fuel quality. Contaminated or degraded fuel shows up as rough idle and hesitation from poor combustion. Clogged fuel filters sooner than expected. Injector fouling and spray pattern distortion. Increased deposits. In extreme contamination cases, drivers experience stalling right after filling, or no-start conditions. Look for turnover, maintenance, reputation. A quiet pump is sometimes just the one nobody returns to after a bad tank. Contamination from the station is a gradual threat. The next mistake happens in an instant. Introducing plastic particles straight into precision fuel components. Mistake number 7. Using random bottles or jugs instead of approved fuel containers. You grab whatever bottle is lying around to carry a few liters of fuel from the station to a stranded car or generator. Approved fuel containers are made from specific grades of plastic or metal, designed to resist gasoline's solvents. Limit vapor permeation. Many general-purpose bottles, like thin PET water or soda bottles, cheap household jugs, or unknown recycled plastic, they soften, swell, become brittle in contact with gasoline. A bottle perfectly happy holding water can gradually leach plasticizers, dyes, micro-fragments into fuel once exposed to gasoline. Any particles not caught by the tank strainer end up at the main fuel filter. Finer ones reach injectors. High-pressure pumps. A modern direct injection system is essentially a set of high-precision hydraulic needles, working at pressures over 2,000 bar. Real-world consequences? Prematurely clogged fuel filters. Noisy, strained fuel pumps as they ingest fine debris and dissolved plastics. Injector fouling or partial blockage. Own one proper, certified fuel can. Eliminates this entire category of risk. Random containers introduce contamination. The next habit introduces additives too often or too concentrated, turning a fuel system cleaner into a source of new problems. Mistake number 6. Using additives right before filling up. You pull into the station, empty an injector cleaner or octane booster into a nearly dry tank, then blast in fuel at full pump speed. Additives are meant to mix gradually with a full tank, yet pouring them into an almost empty one creates a concentrated froth, gets churned toward the filler neck. As vapor escapes, droplets and aerosolized additive can creep into the EVAP vent path, slowly burden the charcoal canister. Heavy dosing also raises solvent concentration, reduces fuel lubricity, adding subtle wear to pumps over time. Labels match bottle size to tank size for a reason. One bottle means a full tank. The next mistake hides in the fuel grade label, where a small shortcut creates a much bigger load on the engine. Mistake number 5, ignoring the fuel grade label. Drivers shrug at octane and ethanol labels, repeatedly using cheaper regular in engines calibrated for premium, or casually running high ethanol blends in older cars. Octane rating is a measure of gasoline's resistance to knock. High compression, turbocharged, or aggressively timed engines are designed assuming a particular octane. When you feed them lower than recommended fuel, cylinder pressures and temperatures trigger knock. Modern ECUs largely save the engine from immediate catastrophe. Knock sensors detect the characteristic vibration signature. The ECU responds by retarding ignition timing. Your experience is often subtle. No obvious disaster, just a car that feels a bit flat, returns slightly worse fuel economy. When an ECU retards timing to control knock, combustion happens later in the stroke. More energy dumps into the exhaust stream. That raises exhaust gas temperatures, putting additional thermal stress on exhaust valves. Turbochargers, catalytic converters. Over tens of thousands of kilometers, that means marginally faster catalyst aging. More heat soak in turbo center housings. Use the grade the manufacturer specifies. Cheap fuel at the pump often just means expensive heat in your catalytic converter. Wrong octane pushes heat downstream. The next habit drills shortcut holes straight into critical systems. Mistake number 4, drilling the cap or filler neck to fix slow filling. You become tired of the pump clicking off. Decide to fix the problem yourself. A tiny hole in the cap or a removed rollover valve makes fuel flow faster. Feels like a win. Refueling depends on controlled balance between the filler neck, vapor escape path, and charcoal canister. When that path clogs or the canister saturates, vapor leaves too slowly. The nozzle keeps shutting off. Bypassing the system vents raw fumes, triggers leak codes, exposes the tank to dust and water. The real fix is repairing the vent solenoid, hoses, canister, not defeating the system designed to protect the tank. Drilling the system open defeats vapor control. The next mistake knocks dirt straight into the filler. Mistake number 3, cracking the cap open with mud and dust packed around it. The area around your fuel cap is caked with dried mud, road salt, beach sand, off-road dust. You just twist the cap open as is. The dirt ring collapses. A portion of it falls into the filler neck. The filler neck usually has a flap or restrictor plate. Some chunky debris may stop there, but finer sand and silt, they ride along with the fuel splash as the tank fills. Once in the tank, those particles circulate with every slosh and pump cycle. Filters used on modern injection engines are designed specifically to catch particles in the low microns. Because injector clearances are so tight, many high-pressure common rail systems have injector clearances under 5 microns. A grain of road salt is around 100 microns. A 5-micron particle can damage injector components. Every time dirt gets knocked into the filler, the system's filtration and clearances are challenged by material that's abrasive at the scale the pump and injectors operate on. Short term, the fuel filter loads up faster, might show up as gradual loss of power at high load. Engine stumbling under heavy throttle. Noisy in-tank pump, left long enough. Abrasive particles wear pump vanes or gears. Erode injector internals. Wipe or blow off around the cap before opening. 5 seconds with a rag at the cap saves 500 at the pump, another 1,000 at the injectors. Dirt falls in from the outside. The next habit ignores signals coming from inside. Weird pump behavior that reveals venting problems the driver then powers through. Mistake number 2, ignoring weird pump behavior and powering through. The pump keeps clicking off. Flow surges or stops. Nozzle fills at a trickle unless held in a weird position. Many drivers blame it entirely on the station. Respond by twisting the nozzle, half pulling the trigger, repeatedly restarting after every click. The automatic shutoff on a fuel nozzle is a mechanical safety device. A small sensing port near the tip uses vacuum to detect when fuel or vapor blocks the flow. That detection interacts with your vehicle's own venting and EVAP system. When the tank fills, air and fuel vapor need to escape somewhere. If the charcoal canister is saturated with liquid fuel from years of topping off, vent lines are kinked, a vent or rollover valve near the tank is stuck. Then pressure or vapor buildup in the filler neck trips the nozzle early. Often, when you keep forcing fuel in after multiple early click-offs, Liquid fuel gets pushed up into vent lines meant only for vapor, flooding the charcoal canister. The canister's activated carbon, which should stay dry, gets soaked, ruins its ability to store vapor, can physically crumble the media. As venting becomes more restricted, the clicking and slow flow get worse. Try a different pump to rule out station issues. If multiple pumps behave the same, suspect EVAP venting problems. Get them checked. Powering through click-offs floods the canister. The final mistake is the smallest part with the biggest drama, a cap left loose, opening a hole in a system designed to be airtight. Mistake number 1, forgetting to tighten the gas cap properly. After refueling, the cap is left cross-threaded, only half-turned, or clicked just once or twice. In normal operation, the EVAP system keeps the fuel tank essentially sealed. Periodically runs self-tests. The ECU uses a purge valve, vent valve, and fuel tank pressure sensor to apply slight vacuum or pressure to the tank, then monitors how quickly that pressure changes. If it fails to hold the target within a certain threshold, it logs an EVAP leak code. For the ECU, a loose cap is functionally a big hole in a system designed to be nearly airtight. From a mechanical perspective, a cap that doesn't seal properly causes increased fuel evaporation. The whole point of ORVR and EVAP is capturing fuel vapors before they escape. A loose cap bypasses that, lets hydrocarbons drift straight out. A bad seal on the cap also provides a path for humid air, dust, road grime to move in and out with every temperature and pressure change. That moisture condenses on cooler inner surfaces of metal filler necks and tanks, promoting corrosion, rust flakes. The loose cap can trigger repeated EVAP codes that lead to unnecessary parts cannon repairs. Owners replace purge valves, vent solenoids, even charcoal canisters. Before someone finally inspects the cap, twist the cap slowly until it clicks at least 3 times. That click is the sound of a seal locking into place. You've fixed your refueling habits, but bad fuel can undo all of it. Some gas brands quietly destroy pumps, injectors, and catalytic converters. Watch the 9 worst gasoline brands next, and the 4 that actually protect your engine.